Good evening, all, and welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for March 14th, 2022. It's 5 o'clock, or 5:04, I should say. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Adoption of the agenda. Agenda adopted as presented or amended. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Hunt, seconder, Councillor Garvey. Any errors or not any errors? Any additions? Hearing and seeing none. All in favor? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. Okay, management report, emergency plan update. DJ.
Yeah, thank you. Could you give me sharing opportunities there, Tim, or do I have that already? Share screen. Oh, it says host has disabled it, so.
You should have it now.
Okay. Okay, we can all see that.
Yeah, can you speak up just a little bit, DJ? Either that or my hearing is gone for good.
Could be both. Could be both.
All right, you're good to go.
Yeah, so I just wanted to give council a quick update of the preparations that we're taking for the spring activity. We did watch that flood presentation from the province last week, and nothing particularly new since then. I think the weather's taken an improving turn. I think we have some nice 2 and 3 degree days coming up, so we should see a lot of the snow shrinking. But I'll go through this presentation, which was 99% done by Sherry, who presented it to the managers last week. So I just added a few front end slides to update council where we're at. Let's see. Yeah, so in 2022, if you guys remember, we got that report from KGS on the hydrological report. Ron has completed all the tasks in that report, including letters sent to about 70 residents. We've had a couple phone calls so far, but 60 of the letters just went today. And those are for the lesser risk, people that are at lesser risk. So they can all ask for a copy of the report if they like, and it does individually talk about certain properties in a manner that respects privacy. So it is an opportunity for people to check to see if their dikes have maybe shrunk a little bit over the past few years or settled, or different things like that, or to look into getting insurance. So we've done that. We've sent the report to the province, so they're aware. And we sent it to the guy who was working on River Road before to try and meet the needs of those couple residences that had been talking to the minister in the past. Our emergency plan is now updated, and council passed a resolution for that in January, I believe. We've sent it off to the province, and we're still waiting for approval. I will say the provincial emergency management team has really ramped up over the past few months. I kind of feel they've been in a rebuilding stage for a couple of years, but it sounded, they gave a presentation about a month ago, and it sounded like they're on track to be a very good organization in the very near future. So I'm happy to see that. They're a key link for municipalities. Like I say, we received a presentation on just Tuesday, and we've been having preliminary meetings, and there's kind of a small core team. It's me and Rick and Sherry and Jim Stinson. And I'm going to talk a little more about Jim's role in a second. But we're in ready position. For sure, training the communications officer has been taking all sorts of online training courses in her role as the key person with the emergency management. So she's been updating the manual and taking the courses, moving that right along. We have 2 staff members that are attending the MEC training next Thursday, I believe, a week from Thursday. I'm actually presenting a portion of it, how to get along with your CAO in an emergency. And then Shelley Napier is going to come and train the rest of our emergency management team at the end of March. I believe March 30th. We have it set up for about 8 of us. So we all have different roles. Some are media, some are accommodations, some are scribes. So Shelley's going to take us all through that. And at that point in time, I'm feeling we're doing pretty good. We got a good plan. We got a good team that knows their roles. And that's for unusual events. For the usual events like this spring, I'm very confident that Rick and his team have arranged for all the equipment. We have all the steamers. Our team at Public Works has worked a ton of overtime this year. Wouldn't be surprised if it was setting records, and I see more overtime in their future. I think once the snow starts melting, we're going to have to be on top of these culverts being blocked and freezing, and try to get out there as soon as possible, or as soon as warranted. So we will be sending out a newsletter soon on that regard, and asking people to put in service requests, because that's really the best way. It shows up on public works staff's phones, it gets coordinated that way, and it gets cleared off that way. So hopefully we get that message out to a lot of people. Please use Connect and or a service tracker and send in your service requests. So we began ditch clearing today, and there's a huge amount of snow. Rick sent a real great picture of the cat getting lost in the Long Lake drain. So it's an unusual year for sure. Like I said before, we have the contractors in place, and we do have sandbags ready and available. And so the staff is going to watch and monitor the melt and look for ice jams. This says working with licensing for a drone with 2-mile capabilities. So that's been something that's been problematic for us, but through Jim Stinson, we found someone last year and started work in this direction to try get a little more drone coverage. I think it helps bring a lot of peace of mind for a lot of people when we can see where the ice jam is and when it's letting go, and even the color or the makeup of the ice. So it sounds like this fellow has managed to navigate the challenges of the Department of Transportation to get his license. He is able to fly 2 miles, and he feels from the north of Maine he can pretty much hit everywhere where we need to hit, as far as we need to with the drone, and he can immediately send film. He can even live stream. I'm not sure we're going to get that working, but we're going to have numerous short videos throughout the event, and we'll see where the ice jam is, if there is one, and watch it move down the river. And once again, residents are asked to use Service Tracker to report plug culverts. They can still phone in, of course. They can still leave messages, but Service Tracker is the most efficient one for sure. This graphic, I'm just sharing it. I came across it just last month in the FCM magazine. I believe I forget the name of it actually right now, but great graphic. And so we've put this on our webpage, and it really does talk about common sense stuff people can do for no money, like cleaning your eaves troughs, making sure you have a positive slope away from your house, test your sump pump, those type of things, good logical stuff, and simple upgrades you can do, so that has it at number 2. And then if you really are more at risk, and if you're more at risk, you're probably getting a letter from us, you're one of those 60 homes, you can look at more complex upgrades, so it's another tool. Our whole webpage though is full of great resources for anybody that's concerned. And I'm not going to go through all 24 of these slides in this detail, just the first few. The others I kind of put mostly for council to read. This is our core team, so it's made up primarily of staff people, or completely of staff people. You'll notice Jim Stinson isn't on this list. With the KGS report, with what we've learned over the last couple of years, we're not super concerned that we need someone on the ground coordinating the efforts that we had to coordinate in the past. We know what houses are at risk. We know how much risk they are. We've sent them letters. We've talked to them. Of the 9 homes that are truly at risk, they're at a pretty low risk. We have a low risk of river flooding this year. The river's very low, the lake's very low, the creeks are low. It's looking pretty good. So, but Jim, as always, is there for us. So I'm taking him out for lunch this week with Rick and Sherry, and we'll have those type of meetings and just make sure we're all on the same page. Other than that, that's the team as we see it. And like I say, we'll all be getting training by the end of the month on that. Again, this is from our webpage. I think it's a great job, a lot of useful information. We did have a couple of residents talking about not being able to get insurance. Well, the province actually has a handout on getting insurance. There are a number of brokers that do provide it, or insurance companies. So people just have to talk to their agent and their broker, and their broker can find them something, I'm sure. We will have sandbags ready, of course. And then I'll just fly through the pictures. So Sherry's been working quite hard for a number of months, updating all the binders, updating the plan, getting ready in the EOC. Some of you, because of COVID, might not even have seen the EOC lately, but you can see we have all our maps of our primary worry area, which is the Petersfield area. We have elevation maps. It's television ready, although it doesn't quite have cable yet, but we can quite easily project if there was a news broadcast or something, if we were in a different type of disaster than a flood and that became important, we can do that, or share with the room pretty easy. But and then just Sherry's just going through the major duties of what happens. And you guys have all taken the training. I'll just stop in this one picture for a second. What's interesting, that is Sherry. And it's just sort of the way the communications work with this. So we communicate during the event. The first year I was here, we communicated at 8, noon, and 4 p.m. But we'll communicate as often as we need to. And that's because even if Sherry's on her combine, she'll pull over and she's going to update the webpage and send the notices out as soon as we need them. So, we are good at communication thanks to that type of effort and that type of availability. And that's certainly been going well, our communications over the past year. We talked just about the other roles of people. And this is the stuff we'll be getting trained on. We don't need to read this. Like I say, this was done for a broader audience than just council, but I thought some of you might be interested in all the stuff that's available and where we're headed. So that's pretty much the presentation. I don't know if there's any questions. I'm certainly willing to take them.
Well, pretty good report, DJ. I know that Sherry's put a lot of work into this. I don't have any questions, just other than it looks like you're ready. Looks like you're ready for a high water event, as Jim would always like to say. Lori.
I don't have any questions. A couple of comments though. DJ, just clarify that we have bags and sand, not filled sandbags. So
okay,
people,
on our messaging. Okay, yes, that's right.
People don't come expecting sandbags. That way it cuts down on people who just want them for whatever reasons, but we have sand in the yard and sandbags to be filled and transported. My second comment is ice breaking. Last year, I think we all remember where they couldn't break the ice in the north because it was too thick. They went back and they broke it afterwards. I think, in the future, their program needs to be changed, starting from the south and going to the north. What happens? What I've heard, ice down the end of Maine is 36 to 40 inches thick, 18 inches up around Selkirk. Where we have the jamming is north, Breezy Point North. They've started there 3 weeks ago, and with the cold weather we've had, that's all going to be refroze. And last year it went really, really well. The ice moved out really, really freely because I think the chunks that they broke never refroze and never, formed an ice sheet again. So that should be monitored this year. And a letter sent to the powers to be saying, start at the south and work to the north. I don't know what the rationale is for working. Well, it used to be they used to work from the north to the south, because then they finished off where their home base was over in East Selkirk. So they were right at home when they finished off. But now they have to get picked up, and I don't know where they get picked up in the south. So to me, it's easier, getting dropped off and then working to the north to the cut, and then coming back to the end of Maine and getting taken out of there. But that'll all be refroze. So again, just a comment to do something about it for next year. The powers to be to ask what the rationale is, and also monitor it this year. Again, if we have that drone, great. We're going to have daily footage on it, rather than other years we've just sent the fire chief up in an airplane to monitor it and see when the jam gets past the cut, and then we're all home free from there. But that's just a comment. I think they should be looking at changing their practices. So,
and if I can just chime in there a bit, we did send a letter. The mayor signed a letter last week before, I guess 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We sent it off to the minister, I believe. No response as of yet. When we had the flood update on Thursday last week, I think it was, Jim Stinson was on the line. He brought up once, twice, and 3 times. The third time, the fellow did give him an answer, which basically was, thanks. Thank you. We'll take it under advisement, I believe is what he said. But prior to that answer, he said that they had safety concerns, because breaking the ice at the wrong end might have the water moving that direction, and the safety of the operators. Yeah, I think there's logistical ways around that, but I believe that's what they said. Like, I think John and Russ were both in on the meeting as well. So that's their concerns. So I don't know. We got the letter with the minister right now, so hopefully there's some communication. And I bet you somebody smart could figure out the way to go north to south, or south to north, I should say. They're just not there yet, But the Amphibex Corp never did that change either. So I'm not blaming the current contractor either.
Yeah, last year, I think that they did go back and they recut a half a mile to pass the cut because they couldn't cut there earlier, and then they went and did it. So really the argument of safety cutting from the south to the north doesn't hold much water. Lori and then Madam Mayor.
Yeah, so the safety part, like I say, it takes probably 5 days from the ice to move from Selkirk to the end of Maine. So you're going to know, and they're off the ice probably 2 to 3 weeks before the ice starts to even move. So the safety aspect of it doesn't hold any water. And to say, they've always done it that way. So, and like I say, I believe they did it that way because they finished off at the home base, which used to be at the marina there. That's why they finished off at home base. It was easy for them to walk back and up the hill, and they were done. So anyway, let's see what we can do to correct this, to make it more, or make it better.
Madam Mayor, and then Councilor Prychin.
Yeah, just to confirm, we did meet with the minister. I don't know, DJ, I don't think you were here then.
Yeah, it was, yeah.
We met with the minister 2019 or the end of 2018. We've sent letters. If you're correct, the last letter we sent, I think it went out on a Friday, and then Colleen had sent us the ad. It was already going into the paper for caution about they're starting with the Amphidex the following week. So I don't know what it's going to take. It's the province isn't listening or not paying attention to this.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Prychin.
Yeah,
And
just
then
to
Councillor
add to Lori's comments, like same thing, living in that area all my life and dealing with floods, that was always the issue. And once we had a couple bad floods, I remember going to council meetings with Don Forfar yet, and all of the residents there and yelling and screaming, and then they started cutting, from the front to the back, and then all of a sudden there was no problem, right? So that's like Lori said, no pun intended, that doesn't hold any water at all for safety, and the issue is at the north end and not the south end. If it blocks at the north end, everybody's flooding. So just completely crazy why they would do that, but yeah, just got to keep on them, I guess. Thanks.
Councillor Hunt.
And that's the other thing, like I say, thank you for getting the letters out and getting them in gear, but I guess the process had already started. But the process of not doing the ice breaking is starting from the north to the south. I don't know what the point of going to Selkirk that far is. The golf course, all those apartment blocks, the Marine Museum, all them places have been diked and protected. They've never been an issue after that the remediation has taken place. It's probably from the number 4 bridge north is where the breaking needs to occur, and if they spent more time in there, especially like from Canvin Swamp or from Wards there, like I say, where it used to flood north is where it is, and then getting it past the cut. So that's just an observation, so.
Thanks, Lori. Councilor Prychin.
Yeah, and Lori's right. Like for years when that all started, they never used to cut all the way. And we used to fight with council years ago. As long as they cut from the Blue Bridge from Highway 4 to the back, they were fine. And all of a sudden it just kept getting extended and extended and extended. And I don't know if that's maybe money from different departments, if we went further, or how that ever started. But like Lori said, going from the Blue Bridge all the way up to past Selkirk there, that's this complete waste of money and time, because there's no blockage, there's no issue there. The issue is getting it through the north, and everything that's down there now is all completely frozen again. So they'll be back there cutting again. And that water always typically moves through Easter weekend, right? It's always the last week of April or the 15th of, from the 30th of March to the 15th of April. And like I said, I've been dealing with that for all my life down there. So, but they're going to be going back and cutting it because it's all frozen again.
Councillor Hunt.
One more quick comment, and that's a good thing. I understand probably politically why they went towards Selkirk, because Selkirk was a partner, and they have been a good partner, so they'd want to see, the residents would want to see some of that work also. But before that, though, sometimes the Marine Museum and some of them apartment blocks weren't properly protected. So now they all are, so that was part of the reason too. So let's take the political point out of it and just do what is necessary.
Okay, any further comments? Thank you, DJ. That was a great report. And on behalf of council, I'd like you to thank Sherry for all the work that she's done on that. Oh, Madam Mayor.
Yes, sorry, I have one more question. Earlier, DJ, so you on the chart here, So you're taking over for Jim Stinson? You're gonna have your meetings, but we don't have a mech anymore?
Well, I've been the MEC since I got here, since Kevin Gamble left. So me and Sherry have kind of partnered on it. Jim was what we called an event manager, and Jim was just going to work with us during those few weeks prior to the water letting go and the melt. That was the idea, and he'd do some prep and be that main contact person for the residents. But a lot's changed since then. Of course, we didn't put up tubing last year. We didn't hear from many people about that, and one or two, I think. I don't think we put up tubes the year before either. We again heard, I don't think we heard from any last year. We heard from one or two the year before. So we didn't need Jim to coordinate that. And the communications between the other at-risk properties and Public Works or the office is pretty good when they do need help, although they haven't needed help. Last year was such an exceptional year. If you remember, this time last year, there was no snow on the ground, believe it or not.
So my question is, you've taken over from Jim Stinson is no longer our MEC. You've got the title.
Well, Jim Stinson was never the MEC while I've been here. But yes, you can say I'm the MEC right now, if you like. Yeah, that would work. But
Okay,
Jim
no,
Stinson,
he was always referred to as the MEC at our meetings and everything else. Yeah.
okay, because Kevin
He was
Gamble, I
always
thought
our
was the
MEC.
MEC. Wasn't Kevin the MEC?
Yeah.
Jim Stinson. Well, Kevin.
Oh, Jim was, okay. Yeah,
And then Jim
but yeah,
came back.
you can put in your notes, so I'm the MEC now. Yeah, that'll work.
Okay, Councillor Prychin.
Yeah, just to add to that, and maybe that's something you'll have to deal with, DJ, unless maybe Colleen's going to put on her rubber boots and help. I don't know, but what's going to happen? Like, you're going to be leaving and moving on to next season. We have to, again, prior to you coming, when Jim kind of retired, and then Kevin came in, and then he lasted a year, and then he pulled the pin, and then we just figured, okay, we'll use Jim if we need as an on-call basis. We should just try and make sure we cover our pants moving for next year, because you're going to be gone and Colleen's new, and just to make sure that Jim's on board, and maybe we need to look for someone else to have a second person on call if we needed. That's all.
Well, it's certainly something that we were talking about. Colleen is very capable. She's been through as many floods or more floods than I have, right? So there's a certain rhythm that comes with floods. I think most of the job of the MEC is to be cool and not overreact. And you get that by going through a few, right? So she's gone through a few. So we have that a little bit, but in the long term, like we're lucky, Sherry does a lot of work, and she gets a lot of that administrative work, which makes it somewhat feasible or is feasible for the CAO to serve in this role if they're experienced in this role. I think when Colleen is no longer the CAO, and if you hire someone from outside of the municipal business, I would strongly recommend that you find someone to sit in that role. And personally, I'm kind of thinking we're just about at the point where we need a protective services manager, or at least part-time, and that could be part of that person's role. But it's something we can look at. But I know we had Kevin. Before that, we had Darcy Hardman for quite a few years, and before that, we had Jim for a couple of years. Those were different years because we were putting out all those tubes. We had some serious weather, but now, especially with this report, we know we don't have to be everywhere at once. We're really looking for overland flooding this year. We're not super worried about ice jams and that type of flooding. We know how high the freeboard is. We know how high everyone's elevation is. We've invested lots to get to where we're at, and we don't need to be as anxious as we have been in the years past. But certainly Colleen is very, very capable at this.
Okay, all very good comments and questions. I think we've went over this pretty good, so I think we can move on. Utility statement, December 31st, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to have a look at it? Any questions? DJ, do you have any comments on that?
I'll just say briefly, and you guys saw it in my notes, but just for anybody watching, there is a requirement in the Municipal Act or the Public Utilities Board Act, I'm not sure which one, that when you have deficits, you need to report them to the board and get approval. We know that the board likes to see audited statements, and I can really see why that is. This actual statement, I sorted through it myself. It's probably pretty good, but until the auditors come, there's lots of new things that I haven't accounted for before. I didn't personally do that amortization of the grants on the bottom, for example. That's from our rate study. But this does exactly follow our rate study, and the numbers I think are surprisingly good given the challenges we had and the number of people we have hooked in. So it's looking pretty good. That's all I have to say. The auditor will audit this. Hopefully we'll get the audit around July 15th, and then we can determine if we need to do another rate study at that time or put it off.
Okay, thank you, DJ. Anybody have any comments here before we move on? Madam Mayor.
Yes, I have a few comments. Under general expenses, Winnipeg participation costs. It was budgeted 142, but the actual is 34,080. Why is that? There's such a big difference.
The participation fee is charged, like each property is charged
Oh, that-
$265 a year, right? So because we
Okay.
only had 120 properties, I think 120 times that number equals the 34,000.
Okay.
You know, so that's what it is right now. We're hoping the city doesn't charge us a full year for all those people that signed up this year, but that would be an act of kindness on the part of the city, and they might well do it because it is an exceptional startup year. But that's what that is.
Okay, thanks. And then what is well water operation? What is that
Well,
for?
you know,
It's 832,
in the
and
budget,
then
yeah.
the actual is blank.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't look into it, Madam Mayor, because yeah, it was $832 and I didn't have any actual expenses. So I am not sure what the rate study anticipated for that, but right now we have no well water that I know of that we're worried about. So, you know, it may have a charge in the future, but it hasn't had a charge in the past. So I'm guessing nothing's really happening there.
Okay, so what is under the budget line? And then the actual, because there's a number of them. Okay, for example, lift station grounds maintenance, 2,600, actual 2,600. They're all exactly identical amounts. Normally
right,
that
yeah.
never happens if there's invoices with tax, you know.
Yeah, of course.
So
Yeah.
is that gonna be redone?
Well, what we're doing with those is that we have an employee that spends half his time on the utility. And he's not built in this rate study on any particular line, right? So anytime you see that exact match that you just picked out, that's money that's being allocated towards his salary. You know, so we're trying to get half his salary covered for by the utility. So these are different items he's taken on a day-to-day basis. He may do some work on them or may not, but that's how that's calculated.
Okay, and then what is remote monitoring flight SCADA?
Well, I did ask that one just in case, but what that one is, and I guess the first year is free, right? And then after that, we pay $1,040. It's a monitoring program. You know, our utility manager can monitor the operations of both lift stations from his house. He gets alarms on his phone and on his computer.
Oh,
You know, so that's what that is. But going forward, it's going to be $75 a month or whatever it is for about $1,000 a year.
okay, so just for clarification, so everywhere it says like emergency generators, 5,200 budget, actual 5,200, where they're all identical numbers. That's not really what that is. That's a salary for someone.
It's the allocation of a salary towards that effort, right? So rather than hire out someone to do grounds maintenance, just for example, I believe that's one of them on here.
Yeah.
If there was ground maintenance, Public Works would do that and would charge for it. So that's how that's set up.
That's pretty hard
Kristen?
to understand. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Hobie.
Yeah, thank you. Most of these numbers I understood, or I mean, because it was kind of a, you know, 2/3 of a year situation. So I knew things wouldn't be exactly as anticipated. But the one that did was the corrosion control. So that's quite a big variant from what we budgeted to what we used. So do we know why? Because we still, if you're basing it on, you know, April to December, and the other numbers, you know, made sense within those realms, but this one was a little bit off for me.
Yeah, so we didn't start pumping to the city until just about September, if I remember correctly, right? So it's 4 months, not since April, because those first few months we went to other
Sorry.
places. That was part of it. The other part of it though is the corrosion system isn't fully operational yet. I know that's what Ron's been working on the last few months, you know, so we can expect to see those prices go up this year.
Okay, so you think for 2022, whatever the budget is, will be more in line with that then?
Yeah, it'd be more in line for sure, but I don't know how much more in line. Like the reason you have interim rates is because there's so many things you don't know for sure, you know. So
Yeah.
at the time this was done, this was based on engineering estimates, the budget, and they, you know, do their best to estimate it. But until you operate it for a year, you don't really know, you know. So we, you know, we won't have it in operation for a year until next September even, you know. So this is very interim. I think it would be hard to set rates from this statement as well. You know, it's a challenge.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments on this revenue expense report? Madam Mayor, you had your hand up. Put your microphone on, please.
Sorry. So in relation to Deputy Mayor Hobie's comments, so is this the final or is it going to be updated?
This is the final, but the auditors will audit it, and generally that'll lead to changes, especially in this case, I would expect changes with the audit in July.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Hearing and seeing none, then let's move on to general operations fund revenue and expense statements. Now, DJ, I'll let you go through that one.
Yeah, this is Tim's work. I'll let Tim take this one over. He's got a broad picture statement. As I mentioned in my note to council when I sent this out, if there is a lot of interest in going through line by line like we just did with the utility one, we're certainly game for that. But we're better off setting up another meeting another day over lunch hour. And Tim would be happy to spend as much time as you guys need to get the comfort you need to, you know, to accept these statements. But for now, I'll pass it over to Tim, and I'm going to turn off my camera. My internet seems to be a little bit shaky.
Okay, thanks, DJ. Tim, before you get started, council, if we think that we're going to have a lot of questions, maybe what we could do is we could send some of those in on an email, and Tim can get back to us. But at this time, Tim, maybe just start with a broad overview, and we'll see how the questions come.
That sounds good, and thanks for making that that statement for me. I was going to make the same statement, John. So thanks for that. I'm just going to share my screen here and make sure I've got this. No.
Okay, we have it, Tim.
No,
Oh,
almost. I just have to open the document here for the summary. Let me just take 1 second here for it to load up. So this document that I'm about to show you is a document we've used a couple times now. So you've seen it a few times in the past. And this should be, no, this is going to be it here. All right, can you see this document here?
Yes, we have it, Tim. Proceed. Okay.
So this report is it's really a summary report of the detailed document that was sent out. So it just summarizes each of the departments, and I've added some general comments on with an overview. So I'll just go through each of the lines, and then we can just we can carry on from there. So I've got along the top here, I've got the revenues, just like the detailed statement, and our revenues overall are basically on budget. The main difference in our revenues this year is the allocations from reserve. The allocations from reserve are directly matched with the projects that we have planned for the year. And if the project didn't use all the intended budget, then I only allocated enough reserve revenue to match what was actually spent. So that's the main difference here this year, along with one other item that's a fairly large item, and it's the check from the North Red River organization for $500,000, which was a payout of the organization's retained earnings. So continuing on down from there, I'm going to move into the expenses. And again, this is all summarized based on department totals. So starting with legislative, that's really you folks and your expenses for the year, and you're really on budget for the most part, a little under budget, on average about 10%, and everybody was about the same. So that's that amount there. So there's some unused budget for that department. The administrative personnel is slightly over budget this year, but that's not exactly correct. There's going to be a couple of critiquing allocation movements, moving expenses around, and there's going to be a little bit of money coming out of this department to go into another department for consulting. So under general office, there's going to be a little bit of money moving or expenses moving into that account from the administrative personnel. So the administrative personnel is on budget for the year. Going down to the next line, general office again is on budget for the year. Other general government services is again it's under budget by a fair bit. Moving along to the various fire departments. Generally speaking, the fire departments were all over budget this year. A couple of contributors to that. One was the fuel costs, because the fuel costs were up this year. Another was it was a heavier year for firefighting. So the second payroll of the year, the one that we processed in December, was fairly high and drove most of the hauls over budget. And then finally, there was that one item that DJ had worked with you guys on a while back, the purchase by the South Hall of all the air apparatus and SVBs and stuff like that. So there was that large purchase that happened late in the fall that was that DJ worked with you on, and that was about $100,000. So that pushed things over a bit as well. So overall, the fire halls were over budget this year, over $70,000. Moving along to transportation. Overall, transportation was under budget this year. There was the fuel costs again that drove the department over budget. And the payroll costs were a little bit higher than what I think Rick was expecting, but within budget overall. Moving on to roads. Roads is overall, it was well under budget this year. And a main reason for that was that the Donald Road Slope project did not start this year. It's scheduled to go back again next year. So that was $1 million project. And that project was to be funded from reserve. So just thinking back to the revenue that I talked about a minute ago, $1 million in reserve money did not get transferred into revenue this year to cover the cost of this project because it didn't happen. So there was more than $1 million left there in road maintenance. And also along with that, one of the road contracts came in under what was budgeted at the beginning of the year by about 130,000, I think the amount was. So that was another contributor to unused budget for public works this year. Moving along to the landfills, you'll notice that there's a small over budget amount there. There's another small adjustment that I need to make as well between the two landfills, between Earl Grey and Clandeboye. So that will mean that some of the Earl Grey costs will move down into Clandeboye and leave that with a slightly larger over budget amount. Otherwise, it was they were fairly close to on budget. There was some larviciding costs this year as well that they were over budget also. So that's another small contributor to that department over budget. Public health and welfare was right on budget. Rec was fairly close to on budget, except for other recreation, and there's some pandemic spending that's been included in there that will get moved out as well. So otherwise, they were very close to on budget as well this year. And as you can see at the bottom of the whole report, and I probably should have started with this, we're looking at about $1 million surplus this year. Even with the adjustments between departments, they won't really impact the bottom line. So my plan is to bring the statements back to council again next week for the council meeting with a recommendation for the allocation of the reserve, the surplus to reserve. And then have those minor adjustments included for the version that's going to come to council next Tuesday. So that's my overview. If you do have some questions, I can attempt to field some right now, and preferably if you'd like a more detailed answer, an email to me would be better, and that'll give me an opportunity to do a little more research if I need to.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
Okay.
I have one question here. Of the $1 million that we are over in a budget, does that include the $500,000 payment from the Amphibex?
Yes, it does.
Okay, so really it's only 500,000 over from operations.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I can't see anybody because Tim still has a screen.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any comments, questions? Oh, here we go. Deputy Mayor Hobie.
Yeah, thank you. So you did answer some of the ones that I had. One of them was the fire hall, because the budget that I saw was 43 and it came in at 96. So that was a difference of 53. So you already answered that. So that's great. On the indemnities for counselors, like I know for mine, I don't know what anybody else, so I can only speak for myself. So it's coming in at about almost 7,000 more than I know I received. So and I really don't have that much in medical or anything, and neither does my spouse. So I'm just perplexed as how there's such an increase, and maybe you could clarify that for me.
It's the payroll costs. It's the Blue Cross. It's all those other costs that are associated with for lack of a better term, your wage. All those extra perks come with a cost, and they get included in the indemnity.
Okay, thank you. That helps, and I usually forget that. So thank you so much. And the last one I had was under fiscal services, and it is the third line down. So sorry, this is the report that it says revenue and expense report, and it's a little different than what you sent me, but it basically, I could find the same things as you were going through it, so it's fine. So the fiscal report, we had a budget of 125,308, and there was zero. No, sorry, the budget was zero, but the actual is 125,000, and it was South St. Andrews, I'm guessing wastewater, and it's the third line down under fiscal services.
Third line down.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, does the numbers help you before, like 10-6320-0002?
So yeah, so that's the cost for first of all, the budget is combined. So the next line down, 821,333.
Yeah.
That's made up of two amounts. The first amount is 400,000 that was budgeted for the water meter installations, estimate for the water meter installations. And then the second part of that amount was 421,333. And that was for the RM owned properties. And that was the tax, the LI tax for those properties. So those two amounts are combined in that one budget. So along with that, like some of the costs of that 125,000 are included in the budget for 821, but some of those costs, actually, no, that's the answer. There's it's the budget is all combined in the one line.
Okay, under the 821.
Under the 821, yeah.
Okay, all right, those are the main ones, and you answered the rest, so thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Deputy Mayor Hobie. DJ, did you want to talk a little bit about the reserves before
Yeah,
we move on?
because one of the goals of today is we want to finalize statements for the next council meeting for a resolution to accept them. And that's what the auditors will, that'll be their starting point for their audit in July. And to do that, we need to decide where we're going to allocate this $1 million, right? You know, so I'm suggesting, you know, all but 100,000 of it, or even 50,000 would go to the general reserve fund. Some, I believe, and the mayor can talk to this a little bit further, but that 500,000 from the Amphibex is supposed to sit tight for a couple of years, I think, for sure. You know, so that's nothing we touch anyways. So the other 500,000 in the general reserve can be used for lots of things. And maybe we use some of it this year in our budget, or maybe it gives the next council a head start on their term, because we have some more money that's flexible rather than put it in specific accounts. I do feel our other reserves are looking pretty good. You know, everybody could use more money. I'm sure the firemen could use more money for more equipment, and you know, so could Public Works. But I think by and large, when we look at our 5-year plan, which we're going to do next, we're going to see they look kind of all right. You know, so I'm suggesting the general. We don't have to make any big decisions, and unless any council oppose that, that's how we'd bring the statements back to council next meeting.
Okay, DJ, do you have those other reserves? Do you have them? Can we have a quick look at them? Do you have them handy, or?
Well, I do in the budget portion of this in camera. So maybe we want to come back and revisit this one when we talk in camera, because that does go through every reserve on a line by line basis, and that'll help a little bit with what I'm saying about how I think most of them are flush enough, you know. But let's take a look. Okay,
let's do that.
While we're on this part, may I speak?
Yes, please go ahead.
Tim, the presentation you gave us, I printed off all the financials that was in our package. I can't find that one. Or did we get that one already?
No, that was, I just finished that this afternoon, and all it is a summary of what you've already got. So it's no new information. It's just taking the department totals and basically condensing the detailed report.
Okay, and just so everyone's aware, our last year's audit is held up because of the audit from North Red Waterways, the Amphibex. I've sent 3 emails to the executive director. We're just waiting for confirmation as well from legal counsel. I think a couple weeks ago we had the meeting to finalize it, and I still haven't heard back, because even if we could get the 2020 audit, because St. Clements is waiting too for that audit. So I'll email him again this week where it is, because we're 2 years we need. And that's the best I can do. The auditor was going to try and do what they could do, but I haven't heard either way.
We appreciate that, Joy. I think we can also talk to our auditors as well, because I did note that Selkirk does have their statements completed, right? You know, so Selkirk's auditor managed to look past this. We know it's not a material amount. We know the corporation didn't operate that year even, right? You know,
we had there was next to no expenses at all for 2020.
I'd like the auditors just to kind of make a note of that and keep on moving, but that's something Tim can have a conversation with him about as well.
Okay, because it was confirmed by Mayor Johansson, there was nothing, so there's really no reason to wait. The $50,000 check that each of us got, that I delivered to the office a couple weeks ago, that can go in a fund. We're all just waiting until the final dissolution of the company is done, of the corporation is done, and then I'll advise right away where that $500,000, you know, how long we have to hold it.
Okay, good. Is there anything further on this expense revenue report that Tim has presented?
I have more questions, but I'll email them in, and I'll include copies. I have too many.
Okay, so that'd be great. Okay, then let's move on. We'd have no receptions of delegates, no old business, no new business. So we are going to be moving in camera. Tim, so as soon as we're in camera, you'll turn the recording off, please. Okay. The motion that council move in camera at 5:53 p.m. to discuss matters that are in preliminary stages and respecting which discussion in public could prejudice the municipality's ability to carry out its activities or negotiation, as well as legal and personnel issues. And be it further resolved that the members of council agree to keep in confidence a matter that is discussed at a meeting that is closed to the public under subsection 152-3, and that the committee decides to keep confidential until the matter is discussed at a meeting of the council or committee conducted in public. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Garvey, seconded by Councillor Hunt. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you very much. We are in camera. Motion to move out of camera at 7:28 p.m. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Prychin, second by Deputy Mayor Hobie. All in favor? That is carried. There are no resolutions coming out of camera, so that being the end of the agenda, we'll motion to adjourn meeting at 7:30 p.m. Councillor Garvey moves, seconder. Councillor Prychin seconds. All in favor? And that is carried. Thank you very much, and everybody have a great rest of your evening.
Good night.
Thanks, folks. Nice meeting.
Good night.